Right, we're live. Good evening, winning women. We just had a little sound challenge, but we have a season broadcaster with us this evening, so they sorted it out at their end. A huge welcome to Janey Lee Grace. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to chat to you after all this time. I haven't seen you for ages.
It's been about 4 years, hasn't it? I think.
Yeah. It's lovely to connect.
Yeah, we did an event in Southend back in 2017 called the Essex Business Women's Experience, and Janey was one of our presenters. So are you in Southend or where are you?
No, I'm not. No, I'm back in Hertfordshire. Yeah, back in Hertfordshire.
Tell us what your connection with Southend is these days, because quite a few of these ladies are local.
Yeah, what happened for me was in the beginning of the first lockdown, I've always been really, I just love the sea. I love being near the sea, but of course I live in Hertfordshire, so I'm nowhere, I'm just not close enough. And in the first lockdown, I was just seriously fearing for my own mental health. So I thought, I have to just take off and get to the nearest place I can get to, and just walk by the sea in order to just feel okay again. So I did. I just kind of took to driving to Southend, which happens to be the nearest place I can get to, and it just was it calmed me down. It sort of helped keep me sane. And then so I don't know, a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago, we just thought, this is bonkers. We're kind of driving there all the time. Why don't we just rent somewhere? So we just rented a flat literally for 6 months, just so that, I can kind of have a bit of a bolt hole. I'm not going abroad, right? So what's not to like? And so, it's just been brilliant because, as it's such a funky place. I just love it. And I've been hosting a few sort of retreat days there as well. So it's been really lovely. And some of the ladies who've come on my retreats have come down from even like the north of England. One woman drove down from Blackpool and got a little Airbnb in Leigh-on-Sea and came over. And she just said it was just amazing just to have that energy of the sea. It's, wow, you guys know it's something else, isn't it? Just to be near the coast. So, yeah.
It is. And I can remember when things eased in the first lockdown and there was a wave of people going down to the south coast. And there was a lady from Birmingham who said, much like you, I just wanted to see the sea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just makes you feel okay again.
It does, isn't it? And I first came across you, somebody gave me Imperfectly Natural. Probably
Natural Women, yeah.
Natural Women, yeah, probably when you first wrote it. 2005, was that?
Yeah, I know that exactly because it's the year my daughter was born, 2006, and the book came out just before that. So, yeah, I sometimes joke that I was really ahead of my time with that book, though, because it was all about holistic living, and I was writing about all kinds of stuff in that book that now are really very common and everybody talks about. But I was kind of ahead of my time, and I sometimes joke that I was sort of talking about kale and coconut oil before they had their very own publicists. But yeah, that was the book that kind of kickstarted everything for me.
It was, and I really remember that thing about coconut oil, and it really was a breakthrough book, wasn't it? And was it an idea that came to you? What sparked that? It's just interesting to know.
Yeah, well, it's very relevant actually to what we're going to be talking about tonight, because the book came about because I was on the radio. I work on radio too. And we were just talking about lifestyle stuff, and I would often chip in on the conversation about, sort of organic food and natural skincare and washing your clothes without chemicals and all sorts of stuff. And of course, the guys would slightly take the mickey and fade the mic down, and it would all become a little bit of a joke. But then I started to get masses of emails from people saying, listen, actually, I'm really interested. Is there a natural deodorant that works? That kind of thing. And then a publisher actually came to me and said, have you thought about writing some of this stuff in a book? Because you must be getting loads of calls. And I said, well, yeah, I have been getting loads of calls and emails, but no, I've never considered writing a book because I don't think I'm a writer. So no, I hadn't thought of it. And the publisher said, well, if you have a passion, if you have a story to share, then don't worry about the writing bit. Someone else can sort that if necessary. Get your message out there. And that's how it all started. And one of the things that I talk about a lot to people who have their own brand is just remember that thing of, author, add 3 little letters and you become an authority. And it does make a massive difference. And the book does not have to be War and Peace, it can be a short ebook, actually.
It can be very simple, can't it?
Yeah.
So, and from there, I just had a little Google. So you had, that was Imperfectly Natural Woman, and then you had Baby and Toddler.
Yep. Yeah, and then I did a book about home, and then I did a book with Hey House, Look Great Naturally Without Ditching the Lipstick. That was the last kind of holistic living book I did in 2014.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And tell us what you've been doing recently.
Yeah, so my latest book, I don't actually think I've got a copy in front of me, which is not very helpful, is it? But anyways, my latest book is Happy, Healthy, Sober, which charts my recent add-on, if you like, to my Imperfectly Natural world, which is ditching the booze. And that came out a couple of months ago. So yeah, I'm really proud of that book. I actually wrote it in lockdown, and it's been great. I was really lucky to get lots of great people to contribute to the book as well. So it's not just my story. It's I've got some great nutritionists and doctors and healers and meditation experts and someone on creativity and a whole raft of stuff. So it's a really not completely non-judgmental look at sort of encouraging people to think, well, maybe I could reconsider my relationship with the Sauvignon or whatever, and also for people who've already stopped drinking or maybe never even did drink, and then they can focus on, okay, let's look at the holistic picture now, because for so many people, women particularly, when they crack that little piece, which for me was the missing piece of that jigsaw, if you like, once they crack that, everything else opens up to them. From that place, you can really consider all the other bits.
That's really interesting. So what sparked that for you?
So I was I never had a rock bottom moment, it's interesting, you see, because in the UK, I think that we tend to think there's 2 types of drinkers. So we think that there are those people who are at rock bottom, and clearly they need alcohol services and rehabilitation and all of that stuff. And I definitely wasn't one of those, there was nothing like that going on. And then we tend to think there's everybody else, and everybody else are happy social drinkers, and every now and then they just can't hold their beer, but mostly they're good. But actually, the reality is not like that at all. It's, it's like a booze spectrum, if you like. It's a spectrum of lots of different shades of grey. And of course, the phrase that we now know is grey area drinkers. That's really what I was. And I joke in my TED talk that, that there are at least 50 shades of grey and none of them sexy. Because most people who drink regularly are somewhere on that spectrum. They absolutely know that they aren't at rock bottom. So that's their sort of get out of jail free card, because if they ever think about it, oh, is there a problem? Am I drinking too much? A little voice says, well, of course you aren't. You're functioning. You're going to work. You're running a business. You're doing fine. You don't need alcohol to get you going in the morning. So you're all good. Right. And so it all carries on. Even if you go and see a GP, and say, oh, actually, I'm a little bit worried because I'm kind of drinking, every night, and I'm a little bit worried. The answer is usually, hey, you look fine. Just have an alcohol-free day, yeah? So the messages are there constantly that it's all perfectly cool. But what tends to happen is, what happened for me anyway, was that after a while, this lovely friend that is alcohol, this lovely glamorous, associate sort of bites you on the bum, really, and you find yourself waking up at 3 a.m., which is very relevant because actually it's your liver saying, help. But you wake at 3 a.m. and a little voice says, this is completely not okay. It is so not okay. And particular for women, you're getting older and this does not sit well with menopausal symptoms. And this is not looking good for cancer diagnoses and all kinds of stuff, and you've got anxiety and you've got this and you've got that, and this is not okay. And that can go on for years. For me, it went on for years and years and years of waking up at 3 a.m. feeling like that. But then by 6 o'clock, the wine witch is back in your ear saying, oh God, you've had such a busy day. You deserve a nice glass of Sauvignon. And then it all starts again. So that's the picture that, an awful lot of people go through. And I was able to finally crack it, and you know, the rest is history. And I've been sober for 3 years, 8 months. And you know, my kind of strap line, if you like, is if only someone had told me how freaking fantastic it is without booze. That is the only regret. I'd have done it a lot sooner.
Isn't that interesting? So my question for you would be, obviously you've written some books since then, you've met some different people to collaborate with on the books. What has it done for you, particularly professionally and personally?
Oh, everything, absolutely everything. I wouldn't have long enough to share all the benefits with you. You know, I mean, literally everything. This is a double negative, but there isn't anything that ditching the booze doesn't make better, if you see what I mean, on both a physical and an emotional level. So physically, whatever you've got going on will either stay the same or get better. It definitely won't make anything worse. That's 100% for sure. So physically, you know, everything that you hope and dream about actually happens. You know, you even get sober hair, which is quite fun. Shiny hair. It's the best anti-aging secret ever. It really, really is, because alcohol ages you, you know. But more over and above that, really, it's the emotional impact and the fact that it lessens anxiety and the fact that you can become authentic with who you really are and actually start to like yourself a bit. You know, for years I was writing books on the importance of mindfulness and the importance of loving yourself and self-love. And I was a Hay House author, for God's sake. You know, there wasn't anyone I hadn't interviewed in the kind of meditation guru space. So I was always talking about self-love. I was always talking about this stuff. But if you'd asked me if it you know, how I was with all of that, I'd have just said to me, ridiculous. It doesn't refer to me. It's not me. You know, that's not my thing. That's for everyone else and not for me. Because of course I couldn't be authentic. I couldn't sit with myself for 5 minutes, for God's sake, because something was off. You know, there's this massive, great big elephant in the room that I was stepping around, which was booze, you know. So so it changes everything. Alcohol, when you ditch the booze, it makes you brave. You know, so many women in my sober club. I did a retreat at the weekend in Southend, and you know, it's only 2 days after our retreat on Saturday, and already there's a woman in the my little WhatsApp group, you know, kind of going, "Oh my God! Suddenly, I've got a sense of possibility. Suddenly, after all these years." Because alcohol dampens your joy, and just 2 days in, and she's just started to get this tingling feeling. Do you know what? Maybe I could write a book. Maybe I could start a business. Maybe I could, you know, start a new relationship. Maybe I could. Just that maybe. Whereas for years and years and years, I've just seen so many people just you know, you get these hopes and dreams and exciting things, and then by 6 o'clock it's like, oh, I can't be asked. I'll just have a glass of wine.
Wow, that's incredible, isn't it? Louise has got 3 ladies made comments here. We've got Josephine, Kelly, and Louise. And Louise says, yes, alcohol dampens the spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why they're called spirits. It does. It steals your joy. It actually steals your joy. And I didn't really know what that word meant. I used to think that was a word that's kind of left for Sunday school, you know. And I always remember when I first started coaching. I trained to be a coach, and I did NLP and everything over lockdown. And I had one client, and it was just so amazing that she ditched the booze, and she was only about 3 weeks in, and it was winter time, and she said to me that it was 5:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and her little boy had run in the room and said, Mum, it's snowing, you know, come outside. And she said that it was literally like she was watching a movie, and she literally kind of leapt out of bed and threw her boots on over her PJs and went out and played snow angels, you know. That would never have happened. I mean, not in a million years. It would have been a case of, oh, just go away and pull the covers over your head because you're hungover Sunday morning, right? Yeah. So, it brings back joy. That's what's great.
Remember Wayne Dyer saying that in one of his books, that he stopped drinking. It wasn't excessive because it spoiled he couldn't have his connection with spirit.
Absolutely. I mean, well, that's why I believe I used to say to people, I can't meditate. You know, everyone should meditate. It's super important. Oh, but I can't. And I couldn't, because I could not have that spiritual connection. I couldn't even sit with myself because it felt very inauthentic. So yeah, it's a massive thing. Anyways.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Is that so? Well,
I've got a podcast if you want tons of free stuff there. I mean, it's I have the most amazing guests. I'm really lucky. It's called Alcohol Free Life. So if it's something you're interested in, that kind of completely non-judgmental approach, have a listen to the podcast, because I do get amazing guests. I'm very lucky. This week, my guest is a positive psychologist, talking all about choosing happiness. So, the podcast covers all kinds of topics around well-being and emotional well-being. So there's loads in there for everyone, even if you're not interested in the booze bit, Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So let's talk about branding for our ladies here, because the reason we had a conversation about what to talk about in the group, and you very kindly said you were happy to come back and talk about something else another time. But I work with so many women who come to the group and they're scared of talking about their business because they think it's all about them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
There you are. And the first thing I've got down here is the importance of owning your brand, because I think that can be quite frightening. You can hide behind somebody else's business, can't you? You can say, I'm just a such and such. But then,
well, you can hide behind the topic as well. So this is a book that I wrote a few years ago now. You are the brand, and that says it all in one sentence. You are the brand. And the amount of people who say to me, particularly women who work in sort of caring professions, so maybe if they're, I don't know, a aromatherapist or an EFT practitioner or whatever, will ask them something about their work and about their business. Maybe I'll say to them, have you got your photo on your website? And the answer will be, oh, no, don't look at me. Don't look at me. It's not about me. It's about EFT or it's about aromatherapy. But you see, it is about you, because there are millions of people doing aromatherapy, millions of people doing EFT, but there's only one you. And your story is really key. And I really think it's critical that people get over that piece, and you have to lose this kind of concept, this kind of mindset that's egotistical. There's that lovely expression, it's not showing off, it's showing up. Right. Mm-hmm. You have to put yourself in the heart of your brand, because ultimately, if you're going to attract clients, people do business with those they like, know and trust. Right. They can't like, know and trust you if they don't know who you are. And they can't know who you are if you haven't stepped up and put yourself right in the center of your own brand. So it feels a little scary. But actually, if you want to help more people, that's the way to do it. People are so scared of being judged, but ultimately, I think it's just a case of, I don't think people ever, if you're looking for something, let's suppose I want to find, I moved and I'm in a new area, maybe in Southend or whatever, and I want to find a therapist to go to. And if I look at a photo of someone, or I get a sense of what they do, they say a little bit about themselves, I'm not looking at that in order to judge them and decide whether I like their clothes or whether their hairstyles, right? It's completely irrelevant. It's just about the energy. It's entirely about the energy. And that comes across. And you get a sense of, oh, could I like, know and trust that person? And if the answer in your gut says, yeah, I mean, all of this takes 3 seconds, by the way. Mm-hmm. You look at someone's website, it takes 3 seconds to decide, yeah, I think she looks like she looks nice. She looks okay. All right, now I'm in. Now I'll read more. Now I'll read the testimonials. Now I'll have a look at what the treatment is. Now I'll see whether I can afford the prices. Now, and on and on and on. But if you don't get past that first stage, you won't get off the starting blocks.
No, which is why it's so important to have a decent photograph, isn't it?
Exactly. To put yourself in the brand, having a photo is just one of the basics, but it's just a great example, because so many women don't do that for that reason, because they say, oh no, well, I'm not going to talk about me, myself. So I'll have clients and we'll be chatting about how they can get themselves out there and how they can get PR for their business. And then I'll say, well, let me have a look at your website, and I'll call up the website, and there'll be, amazing pictures of I don't know, wildebeest or Buddhas and mountains and lakes, and it's like, oh wow, this is beautiful. You know, if I was wanted to go to an art gallery, but I've got absolutely no idea what you do, no idea.
So there have to be visuals of what you do and how you do it, and
it has to be very specific. It's your shop window, and it needs to say really clearly, okay, this is my logo, this is, you know, the name of the business, here's who I am, hello, you know, smile at you, and here's what I'm good at, or here's my passion, or here's my, or, you know, your mission statement or whatever, just something that connects with that person. And as soon as you've got over that first little bit about you, so in other words, who am I, the business owner, after that it's about them.
Right, okay, thank you, that makes it really clear, doesn't it? Thank you for that. Yeah, and you must have had an enormous amount of, I imagine, criticism coming your way over the years.
In what respect?
Well, people do judge, don't they? If you're in the public eye, you're going to get judged, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely just, I mean, I am a quite, you know, very sensitive person, and I'm a real old people pleaser as well. Although, again, you see, ditching the booze really helps with that. Yeah, really helps with that. People who are drinking are just notoriously awful at setting boundaries. We've been having a conversation about this in the Sober Club recently. So many women who are drinking are just I don't know, it's almost like you're on the back foot all the time. So you're just not very good at setting boundaries, not very good at just kind of going after what you want. You're just constantly looking after everyone else and not taking care of yourself. Well, it comes back to self-care, of course. But when you stop drinking, it helps you literally not give a toss, honestly. So, yeah, it doesn't bother me. People will find me who like what I do. And if they don't like what I do, it's fine. It's fine.
Brilliant. That's interesting. It's something I always say to people when I work with, have a real clear idea of the person who you are writing for, sharing for.
Yeah, that's super important. No, exactly. I mean, knowing your ideal client is really key. I mean, in this book, there's a good few chapters just on really nailing your niche and your ideal client in great detail. Exactly what is that? Who is that client? What do they like? Where do they go? What do they read? What do they listen to? What do they, you know, what makes them tick? One of the traps that I think a lot of women fall into in business is you ask them, well, who is your ideal client? And the answer is usually, well, everyone. Everyone, you know, so you'll say, I remember saying to a Bowen therapist once. Bowen, for anyone who doesn't know, is an amazing treatment, absolutely amazing, particularly for things like back pain and joint pain. And I remember saying to this Bowen therapist, okay, she wanted to do some marketing and wanted to do a little campaign and PR her work. So I said, okay, we're looking at this campaign, who's your ideal client? And our answer was, everybody, absolutely everybody. You know, I can treat pregnant women, I can treat, children, I can treat elderly people with arthritis, I can treat, and it went on this massive, great long list. And actually that happens to be true, because Bowen, you absolutely can do that. She's absolutely right. However,
by the way.
Oh yeah, oh, are you? Well, you cranky, well, you know then. So there you go. So I said, okay, so how is it working for you now? Trying to market to all of those different, you know, and of course the answer is, well, I'm not getting any work at all. So I said to her, okay, so given that you can treat everyone, but you can't market to everyone at once, let's just choose one niche to start with for your first campaign for marketing. Just choose one. So then I said to her, let's imagine, God forbid, that you only had a couple of months left, but you could leave a legacy in your work. Right. Who would you want to work with if you could really make a difference? But only one group of people, just for the purposes of this exercise. And immediately she said, oh, without any shadow of a doubt, women who can't get pregnant. You know, I'm really passionate about this fertility piece. Okay, that's where we start. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that she's not going to do any treatments for elderly people or babies. She may well do. But the marketing, the PR, the focus is going to be on that that one niche. You've got to start with something, because otherwise, how can people find you? The elderly people are not going to be reading the same magazines or listening to the same radio stations or reading the same blogs as the women who are trying to get pregnant.
No, not at all. And the way it was described to me is that ideal client was, funny enough, that's the work I used to do. I did loads of fertility work for 27 years. That's the groove in the old record. Remember the old
old vinyl? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there you go. So it's the groove in the record, and the other people sit around the edge. But the ones who you're really going for, they fall into that groove, because it's a bit like the channel in the brain, isn't it, that you make with a certain way of thinking. And funny enough, I can remember people talking about you in the Bowen community, because you mentioned it on Steve Wright.
I did. I actually challenged my co-host Tim Smith he was going on about having tennis elbow. I think it was his elbow or his wrist or something, some problem. This was years ago, and I challenged him live on air to have a Bowen treatment. I said, I'll pay for it, or you pay for it and I'll pay for it. It doesn't work, or something like that. Live on it. So he did. So he went to, and he was such a skeptic, and he was going, I have no idea what happened, but it's worked. So I did. I used to do a lot with the Bowen community. So. Yeah, but that's just a great example of an area of expertise where you genuinely can work with everyone, but you can't market to everyone.
No, and I think the challenge we used to have with that, which will apply for some of the ladies watching as well, was it's a funny thing. You do these little rolling moves over people's muscles. So if somebody's looking at you, you haven't got needles you're sticking in. You're not fiddling with someone's toes. You're doing all these.
Exactly.
Looks like you're not doing anything.
Absolutely.
So, and there, it's focusing on the results, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not the how. Absolutely. It really is the transformation and getting that social proof in from people who've experienced it and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. All of that sort of testimonial pieces will become very important, for everyone, really. Being able to share success stories is really key.
Yeah. So why do you think so many women have imposter syndrome and really keep themselves small and back in that comfort zone? And I can remember this from me when I was very comfortable as a therapist, and I trained to do my coaching. And I can actually remember I worked with someone and she was crazy about what I did. And then she had a stroke the following day. It was the most bizarre thing. This lady was so excited, and it was almost as if it blew her mind. And she spent 4 days in hospital and she recovered. And I can remember from that point, being a bit of an empath as well, being really quite scared of what I was doing and pulling back, going back into the comfort zone of the therapy and what I was used to, and keep playing small once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's very common for people when they start their business to sort of think, well, it takes a lot for people to really step into the spotlight. What we were talking about before, this really recognizing that it's you you've got to put yourself on the line, as it were. And there's something really authentic about that. And when you do sort of step into doing what you do well, there's a certain level of authenticity there. But the problem is, of course, we've all got the inner critic, chattering away to us. That little voice that says, for God's sake, who are you to think that you can, put a course out there or write a book or charge that amount of money for your clients, or, set up in this town where there's already 3 therapists, or, that voice that talks to us. And however, enlightened we are, we still have that little voice. And I think really it genuinely does all come back to that sense of being able to recognize that we can take back control of our thoughts about ourselves, that we can try and access this little piece of holding on to the fact that, we are enough. We really are enough. I've been doing this stuff for years and years and years. And you would think, wouldn't you, that amongst us people who are trying to help other people, and therapists and people who are running holistic businesses. And you'd think that we're the ones who already know this. And of course we know it, but that doesn't mean that we're putting it into practice. That's a different thing. That's a completely different thing. And actually, sometimes I need to take a step back and say, all of this stuff I actually know to be true. Am I really taking it on board for myself? And often we aren't. We really aren't. I certainly wasn't. I mentioned Louise Hay. I was a Hay House author, and I did a conference where Louise Hay was speaking. If anyone doesn't know the late great Louise Hay, it's definitely worth checking out her work, because she was sort of queen of self-love and mirror work. And she told everyone at this conference to take a break. We were going to have a break in the conference and go to the loos and look in the mirror and say your name and say, I love you. And oh my God, you should have seen the chaos that ensued. It's like, I don't think so. Where everyone's making jokes about breaking mirrors, and because we really are not very good at that. We really are not. It's really painful for most women to do that, if truth be told. It really is. And in fact, so much so that people often say that if the stuff you're thinking in your head, if you said it out loud, the stuff that you're thinking when you look at yourself, if you said it out loud, you'd actually be had for abuse, particularly if there was a child nearby. We're so mean to ourselves. We are so mean. And we need to actually just cut that. We really need to find a way of putting in the pause. So the next negative thought you have, because you will have one, we're human, the next negative thought, put in the pause and ask, is that actually really true? Okay, and can I replace that now with a positive thought? And it really is a case of just slowly taming that inner critic, and actually pat yourself on the back occasionally. Most women don't do that. If you're watching this and you've started a business, bloody good for you. How amazing is that? When was the last time you gave yourself a big hug and said, God's sake, well done? Most of us don't do that. We really don't. We do not praise ourselves at all.
No, we really don't, do we? Something I've been working with an American lady called Liz Nicholas recently. One of the things she gets us to do is to spend 3 minutes in the morning just writing down our thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of that in the Sober Club group. The Julia Cameron Morning Pages thing is that, I don't know if that's the same thing, but it's
similar, but this is much shorter, and it's just to go, oh my goodness, that's interesting. And when you sound as though you've got Tourette's, that thing, I found it hugely revealing and totally non-judgmental, and just, wow, did I really think that? My goodness. And the idea of that is also to slow down your mind. If you put pen to paper.
It is amazing how the cognitive brain works when you handwrite stuff, and I do think this brain dump thing, it can be massively beneficial, really beneficial. I remember when in the early days of ditching the booze for me, I was doing that because I was a real mess. I was very chaotic, to start with, because I had no kind of emotional maturity. I didn't know how to handle any kind of difficult thoughts, because I just would have parked it until I could numb it out with a glass of wine, really. So when you've actually got to look at stuff, I found it really, really tricky. So I started doing that journaling thing. For me, it was a little bit like meditation, actually, just getting it all out. And what I found really interesting was I would be walking, maybe, because sometimes, I hadn't even got much to write. I would actually write down, I can't think of anything to write. It was that ridiculous. But I remember a couple of occasions kind of going for a walk or something later in the day, and the thing that I had written about, i.e. something that I'd been worrying about, suddenly the answer came to me. And I swear it wouldn't have done if I hadn't have allowed, because sometimes we have these little niggles and worries that we don't voice. We don't voice them, even to ourselves. We just don't voice them. It's a bit too scary to even go there. So if the thought even starts to appear, I'm not going down that track. So when you have to brain dump it all out, then it can allow you to process it.
And the alcohol's a metaphor for me, particularly observing myself being at home by myself for so long in the last 18 months. It's food or tea.
Yeah.
Same thing, isn't it? And actually, another thing I've been doing with Liz is to actually sit with a thought. You know, sit with being angry, sit with feeling inadequate, because we'll just go off and do something instead, won't we?
Exactly.
As you say.
Well, we're taught, aren't we, that any negative, in inverted commas, emotion is an unwanted emotion, and we just need to get rid of it as soon as possible, numb it out as soon as possible. And that's what most of us have done for years. You know, so if we feel a little bit, a little bit unsettled, guilty, a little bit of shame, bit of, maybe I shouldn't have done that today, or just numb it out with a glass of wine. That was me. Whereas actually, when you're no longer doing that, you have to actually sit and accept emotions. And, I've also done some work with someone on all of that. I did a really great interview with a woman called Carla McLennan, who has a brilliant book called Embracing Anxiety. And she talks in that book about the fact that actually all emotions are wanted. Okay, we may not think we want any of the other stuff. We just want the happiness, right? But actually, they're all important and they're all welcome. But what we have to do is, as you say, sit with them, notice them, and ask, what's it trying to tell me? And anxiety, particularly, very often comes up because we're in overwhelm. And there's actually stuff we have to deal with. So rather than just, trying to numb out the anxiety, like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Oh my God, that's really, really uncomfortable. Give me something so that I don't feel like that anymore for a few minutes. If we actually sit with that anxiety, sometimes it becomes apparent that we just need to write a bloody list or ask for help or whatever it might be, because it's usually linked to having too much to do.
Yeah, of course. And the other thing I've come up in business recently is how much guilt and shame we have in our business lives.
Yeah, well, guilt and shame, of course. Shame is the lowest vibration, that we resonate at. It's, it's so hugely damaging to everything, our immunity and everything. And of course, for the last, God knows, year and a half, fear and shame have been what has been peddled, at us all by the government, 24/7, pretty much. We've all been kind of forced to feel fearful and to shame each other. It's super unhelpful. So I think the more people can, do anything that helps to raise their vibration, the better.
And raise each other's vibration as well, isn't
it? Yeah, definitely. And there's a real power in that community. Exactly what you're doing. That the community of being able to support, to be seen. That someone's there to support you. Makes just a massive difference. And that's the other thing I think in business. So many women just think, I'll just crack on and do it all on my own. And it's like a sign of weakness to ask for help. But actually, it isn't. It's a sign of real strength to ask for help. Number one, because, kindness is good for you. So it allows the other person to actually get even more benefit than you're getting by helping you. So there's that piece of it. But also, by asking for help, you're allowing that person to know it's okay for them to ask for help. That's been a massive game changer for me. I had no idea that I could ask for help. So, yeah, I think that's a big one.
Thank you. I used to do a post in the group on a Wednesday, which was about skill swapping. I think I might do does anyone need any help post this week?
Yeah, brilliant.
So, because I know there's a lot of people in Winning Women. There's 1,900 in this group now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did a little post a while ago saying, who's a silent lurker? Come and say hello. And people are popping up they're from all over the world now. It's wonderful. So a Feng Shui lady joined from New Zealand last week. So.
Oh, wow. Oh, brilliant. We were talking about Feng Shui in my retreat that I did on Saturday. So we were talking about the importance of kind of manifesting what it is you want, and sometimes actually having a pictorial representation of that. And we did some vision boards. And I was saying, place your vision board where you can see it You know, don't just kind of shove it in the attic or whatever. And then we got into a whole conversation about feng shui and where your kind of helpful corner is. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's another whole retreat here.
Yeah, these are big subjects, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So, Janey, how can people find you? And is there anything you've got going on at the moment that you'd like to tell us about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always got shed loads of stuff going on. If anyone is interested in thinking about ditching the booze, then please have a look at the Sober Club, soberclub.com. That's my kind of platform for health and well-being, for, you know, a totally non-judgmental look at, how you can sort of think about that side of your life. I still have imperfectlynatural.com, which is all my recommendations for health and well-being stuff. And then I still do my kind of media training and kind of get your message out there stuff, linked to this book. So I do have like a kind of a power vision call that I offer people. It's like a one-off coaching session where we blast through what are your key messages that you can really focus on, both for getting clients and for getting PR. Or if you're already sorted on that, let's sort you out a really clear PR strategy that it doesn't have to cost you a fortune. You know, I'm a big believer that you don't necessarily have to hire a PR agency. You can do. But even if you do, you're still going to have to be the brand. You know, you're still going to have to do the bits yourself. So I have a power vision call that if anyone's interested in that, I'm very happy to knock £100 off for your ladies. So I don't know if you want to put the link anywhere, or I can put the link somewhere.
You're welcome. If you want to pop it in.
And the comment. Oh, in the comment. I've only just noticed the comments.
I think we'll have to wait till we come off the call and then do it on the Facebook page. If that's all right. Yeah. Yeah.
How do I? On the Facebook page. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And is there? You're in the Facebook group, aren't you? So I think
I am. Yeah.
You are. Are you happy for people to pop your questions in there
as
well?
Absolutely. Yeah. No problem at all. Yeah. Always happy to do that, and anyone can message me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and do put a link to your retreats in Southend.
I will do. Yeah. I really do. I'd love to connect with some more. Some more people in that area. It'd be great, because I haven't actually managed to find anything nice for me yet. You know, because I'd love to. I was asking you about yoga in the area as well. So so I've probably got lots of questions that I'd like to ask.
Yeah, there's loads going on around here. There always has been. But a couple of people said thank you very much. Great chat. Thank you both. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for watching, and you're happy to come back and talk about something else another time?
Absolutely. Yeah, no worries. Love to.
Lovely. Well, maybe if anyone's got an idea, we all know what you get up to. So if anyone's got any suggestions, we'll get Janey back again in a little while.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, Shambhala for yoga. Remember the name, Shambhala.
Shambhala. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Josephine says that. Excellent.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us, ladies. Thanks, Janey. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.